And we ended up we are up to 11 properties now, but our first property was back in 2019. The three of us did it was just a commercial property. We bought for in the mid threes and sold for the almost 700, 5 years later. So that was our big win that we had just from getting dividends, from that, paying down debt and just learning how to negotiate deals. From there, we formed different LLCs and we're up to about 15 million under assets under management right now for commercial buildings. And that's kind of our focus. We lucked out.
Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast, the show where we teach you how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want.
Doctor!
Now, here's your host, Dr. Alex Schlow.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast. Thank you for listening to another episode. I'm so glad you're here. And as always, I'm your host, Dr. Alex Schlow. Today's episode of the podcast was another great one. Dr. Fromang joined us on the podcast. He is an ER physician in Florida who has recently been able to cut back to only working 32 hours per week and now cut back part-time, all because of his willingness to take action. He is an investor in commercial real estate, buying his first commercial real estate property in 2019. And now him and his partners have $15 million of commercial properties. And they use an operator who is fantastic, who helps them run the day-to-day, allowing him to practice medicine when he wants and how he wants. This was a really cool episode. Graves is an awesome dad, awesome husband. We talk a lot about the flexibility to be there to coach your kids' games and to just be more present and to do what you want with who you want when you want. So without any further ado, let's get started with today's episode with Dr. Fromang. Fromang, welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast. So good to have you on the podcast, man. It's been really cool following your journey in Action Academy, and it's been awesome getting to know you, man. How are things going?
It's going well, Alex. I really appreciate you having me on your podcast conversation.
Absolutely, man. Me too. Yeah, we were just talking before the podcast about how we wish that more doctors would be understanding and willing to take the leap to get into real estate and entrepreneurship, and how if you can graduate residency, graduate med school, you can absolutely succeed in business and in real estate as well. So excited to hear your journey as an ER doc. But before we get started, do you mind telling folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Fromang. I'm a Florida native, born and raised down here in South Florida, Vero Beach, Florida. My grandfather and my uncle were physicians, so I got started on that track early in college and then headed down to South Florida, Nova Southeastern College of Osteopathic Medicine down there, and then found my way towards residency up at the University of Mississippi in Jackson, Mississippi. Spent 3 years up there after I did my internship and then moved back home. My wife's from just south of here in Fort Pierce, Florida. So we're both Florida natives. Moved back home to be closer to family after residency and being gone so long between med school and residency. So that's just a little bit about myself. Been practicing about 12 years now. Some of that clinical income with cash to do, as Brian says in Action Academy, to do what you want when you want. That's kind of been my mantra for the past year and a half, as I've taken a different journey to going part-time in the emergency room, investing in real estate, and just looking at different non-clinical jobs to kind of replace that income, but controlling my schedule, which has been the biggest part of that journey. And the one thing that I found that, I really want to take hold of is just having control of that schedule.
Awesome, man. Yeah, a lot of people listening to that feel the frustration with not having any control of their schedule and being told to do more with less and see more patients and less time. And just that lack of control, I think the lack of control leads to so much burnout in medicine. I mean, we're supposed to, like, quote unquote, be the top dogs, and we should have that control because we're the ones who know how to take care of patients best. And a lot of times that control is stripped from us. And I think that leads to a whole lot of burnout. Was there a specific moment in time where you were like, hey, it's time to cut back? Or was it just as you started getting further along in your investing journey that you were like, hey, it's time to dial back the hours a little bit here in the ER?
It kind of started early on, right at residency and graduation, when I was doing dips during residency and, back home and finally getting that first job and making some real money, not residency money for those who would understand, and working 20 something shifts, covering 6 ERs, traveling all the time and missing this and missing that with my kids. And my mom passed when I was 47, when she was 47, when I was in college, my senior year in college. And so I started just dialing back, like what's more important. And, you read a lot of these self-help books, and the one commodity you can't buy back is time, right? So from then on, after about 2 years out, I really started dialing it back from, 15 to 20 shifts a month down to the minimum hours, which is 120 hours, and just figuring out there. And now using real estate, investing with different people that's friends of mine and different groups, trying to, like I said, replace some of that income so I can dial it back even more. And luckily, just through, good luck in investing and some, base hits that I've had with different projects that we've done, I've been able to dial it back even more now to part-time. So that was the impetus going forward, was just, it's fleeting. The time is fleeting. I'm 44 now. My mom died when she was 47. So it's just always in the back of my mind, like what would happen in the next 3 years if something happened to me, like, my kids, if I'm sitting in the hospital taking care of other people and not really focused on what's important, then what's for. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good perspective. I'm sorry that it took, your mom passing at such a young age to have that insight, but I think you probably got that insight so much sooner than a lot of folks who just wait until they're 65, like traditional retirement, and then something happens, or they're like so, arthritic or, immobile that they can't even enjoy their retirement and enjoy all that work that they put in to get to that point. So I'm really sorry of the circumstances, but I'm glad you realized that early on and realized the power of controlling your own time and the importance of, spending time with the folks that matter most.
Yeah. And it's something that's always weighed in the back of my mind. In the past since COVID, I've lost my grandparents, my uncle, 2 uncles, and my dad. So it's just been one thing after the other over the past 5 years, to the point where, not that I don't love medicine, I love it, but the control of your schedule from an emergency standpoint, when you're working day shifts to mid shifts to night shifts and the flip and flop and the nights, the holidays and weekends, it just got to be where you could only schedule off so much and you would miss more than that. And so you had to put it into perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's tough to miss those things. And, the ER, like, is always open, and it's gotta be open on the holidays and stuff too. And so that makes it tricky to hear about, all the loss that you've had the last 5 years, man. That's rough. And I'm sure it has been challenging for you. How's it been from a family perspective? How's it been as you've cut back your hours? Have you been able to spend more time with family, or have you kind of struggled with, okay, I know I want to build this cash flow and build this business up? Have you struggled with like how to still balance despite having more time out of the ER?
I mean, well, I've taken on coaching. I mean, that's been one of the biggest things that I've wanted to do. My oldest is 17, going to be a senior next year. And so she'll be leaving, going to, college. And so, making sure I'm at her karate tournaments, and I'm at her volleyball games and her flag football games, coaching my son's middle school football and basketball and baseball. And then my youngest being able to take her to her horseback riding lessons, piano lessons, like just things that, you get to do here and there, but not on a consistent basis. And so being able to just do the things that they enjoy doing, and doing those with them, has been a huge, it's just changed everything. I mean, just not flipping from nights to days has changed my whole lifestyle, being able to sleep soundly and wake up at the same time. And I do work shifts. I'm not saying I went completely out of the ER, but it's not been I control the schedule now.
Yeah. It sounds like you're practicing medicine when you want to, how you want to. And that alone is huge. And I think that's where a lot of folks want to get to, is like just some control over the schedule. Like we're not saying here that you should just quit your W-2 completely, but figure out, hey, do I love medicine? How often do I want to practice medicine? And how can I control that schedule and control that time so I can practice medicine how you want to and live life how you want to? So, well, that's so cool that you're getting to spend more time with your kids, get to, join them on all their hobbies. I'm sure they love that. And I'm sure they feel like your presence a lot more. And with, having those regular sleep schedules, you're probably more present just in general because you're not flip-flopping all around. Right. I don't know how folks in the ER do it, man. I love the ER. I couldn't do it just because the shift's flipping around like that, man. I need my regular sleep.
But it was fine. I'm there for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, what did it look like as you started to figure out, like, hey, it's time to start working on some passive income? What did that look like for you? What did that journey look like at the beginning when you decided, hey, you're going to take this leap and, maybe take on some risk to get started?
Yeah. So I can remember it was back in 2019, my good friend, he's another ER physician, Hamid Husseini, and I coincidentally meet people that one guy was in Alabama and then he from that area in Florence, Alabama. And then he actually moves to that area, somehow meets this other guy that my guy in Florida knows. And then we all figured out we know each other. And we ended up we were up to 11 properties now, but our first property was back in 2019. The three of us did it was just a commercial property. We bought for in the mid threes and sold for the almost 700, 5 years later. So that was our big win that we had just from the get go, getting dividends, from that, paying down debt and just learning how to negotiate deals. From there, we formed different LLCs and we're up to about 15 million assets under management right now for commercial buildings. And that's kind of our focus. We lucked out. I mean, we have a good operator. I mean, we have somebody that we can trust. He's not a physician. But he manages it the day to day. He manages the rents. He manages the crises that come up with owning commercial. The roof is leaking or that toilet's broken or, we need new asphalt. So he's our day to day guy. And we really lucked out in finding somebody who can be that operator for us. And it's been fun because we've acquired several different asset types within the commercial buildings. We've got government buildings, we've got offices. It's, doing these deals with them all.
That's awesome, man. How did you kind of vet your partners before you guys got started? Or, did you already have a great friendship and realize like, hey, let's just jump into this, see where things shake out?
So my best friend, he met this guy up in Florence, Alabama. And then I know the other ER doctor I work with, all the time here in Florida. Those two just happened to know each other and had been doing real estate for years. I mean, he's got projects going in Huntsville, huge condominium projects. He's got huge condominium projects all over the Southeast and some in Pennsylvania. So those two had already been partners together, had successes, and were looking for partners to do on other deals. His other partners, kind of came and went through their other deals. So, that's when my buddy Hammond and I jumped on and we're like, yeah, sure. We'll take a chance. And we're working in the ER. We got to put our money, it's either in the stock market or, invest in the real estate. So
that's awesome. Well, it sounds like it, paid off for you for sure. In 2019,
we lucked out.
Hey, luck's when preparation meets opportunity. Yeah. You took the leap to join them and, took the chance and took the risk that a lot of people wouldn't otherwise. So I wouldn't say you lucked out too much. Sure. Maybe market dynamics were in your favor. But yeah, well, hey, that's awesome. So 2019, that first property, what did that look like for you in terms of what type of commercial property was it or who was the tenant? And what was kind of due diligence like? Or I guess maybe even what were your thoughts as you guys were purchasing that first property together?
Just like anything, is it overpriced? Are we, how's the building? Where is it located? What's the, looking at what's the lease terms? How long have they signed for? How long have they been there? One of them was a convenience store owner who had been in there for 10 plus years, always re-signed his contracts. And then the other one was like a loan office or something, and had been there again, but same time frame, always, Title Max. It was a Title Max and had, this stability in the leases, always paid their rent on time. And we're going by what the previous owners, what they said. And then he went down and vetted them, made sure, we went through all the documents, made sure that the money looked well, right from a cap standpoint. And we all invested. My buddy Hammond and I invested a little bit more, but our other partner has skin in the game as well, but invested a little less because he manages it from the day to day and handles the lawyers and the contracts and things like that. So he's the boots on the ground, which, there's value in that for sure. And having somebody who can do that, and then just like you said, it's just like, well, he's done these other deals with a, partner of mine down here, and he trusts him. So like you said, it's a leap of faith, but it looked good on paper, and we wanted to start investing. So we figured a small, 2-tenant building would be the way to start.
Yeah, it's a great way to start, man. What did it look like from there in terms of the stack? Did you go from 2 to 4 units, or did you just jump from there into larger commercial properties?
As we started to, so when we started with one separate company, then we created a different LLC, which bought a couple more properties. So, 2. And then once the word started getting out and he started meeting other people, he actually met a gentleman who was just looking to, he was retiring. He wanted to sell some of his properties, just stagger the sales. And this was just somebody our friend knew. And so as he staggered his sales, he gave us first right of refusal. And so we picked them up before they went on market. And so that's how we ended up with the majority of ours. And then just word of mouth, getting on LoopNet and sending deals in and just, grinding it and, just underwriting them and seeing if they make sense. I mean, a lot of phone calls, a lot of underwriting, a lot of back and forth, to see if it just makes sense for our numbers and, what we could afford for every.
That's great, man. Yeah, there's still some deal opportunities on LoopNet. People say LoopNet's where deals go to die, but if you just keep making those offers, you just got to keep making offers that are reasonable and work for you, and something might stick. So that's awesome. What is your favorite niche or niche, however you want to say that, within commercial real estate? What's your favorite? I know you had mentioned some medical office spaces, dental offices, convenience stores, Title Max, all those sorts of things. What's your favorite if you had to pick one?
Right now, my favorite personally, as long as Trump doesn't come in and doge us out, it'll be our government buildings that we have. We've got 4 right now that are pretty solid contracts with the state of Alabama. And so, they've always voted red for Republicans. So hopefully he won't come down. But the government contracts have done really well. We've been able to negotiate pretty significant increases in the rent, 10-year contracts, and the bills are paid on time. They have very little ask on our side. And that's just been a small niche within our commercial buildings that now our name's slowly getting out there that we have these 4 buildings. And so they're good.
For sure. Yeah. So it sounds like, like the dependability of the government buildings, like the ability to raise rents to be market or a little bit better in the 10-year lease. Is there anything else you guys look for in terms of a lease that makes it favorable for you?
That's, just how much longer they have on the lease and, how long have they been in that particular property are just, key signs for us, because they're big properties. And so for us to lose that tenant would be really difficult. So, the stability of those leases and just the length of time has been, and then, through your inspections, you're just making sure, buildings are up to code and, there's been no major catastrophes, roofs are, not leaking, asphalt in the, parking lot looks good, gutters, paint, something, things like that.
Nice. Are these typically triple net leases that you all are getting for these properties?
A couple of them are, not all of them.
Okay.
No.
And double net as well. Okay. For folks who have no idea what we're talking about when we say like single net, double net, triple net, do you mind explaining that to them?
Yeah, it's just a matter of how much that the tenant is willing to take on for payment that's not out of the owner's bank account, so to speak. So things that they would be, they would commit so much money to the HVAC up to a certain amount. Are they responsible for roof repairs or asphalt repairs or painting or, how much inside? Are they paying the taxes and utility bills, things like that? So it just varies from property to property that we have.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome, man. Why commercial for you? What do you guys like as a whole about commercial? Why didn't you start in short-term rentals or single family or any other asset class? What drew you to commercial besides maybe your partners?
So I'd owned some condos in the past and rented them out just to college students, down where I lived in South Florida. I had a townhouse down there and rented it out. And my partners had been in the single home rentals, been in small multifamily, like 10. From a commercial standpoint, there was a lot less maintenance is the way he explained it to us. And then I just recently bought a condo and a lot less hassle. And you're going to go after you're going to go after a single unit multifamily or something like that, the same way you're going to attack a larger commercial building. Plus the caps were higher. You have multiple rents. You lose one tenant in one small, shop or whatever. You got 5 or 6 more to, keep that going. You lose one where I'm running into with my single family condo right now. I lose both my med students that graduated and I haven't picked up any more. So I'm vacant now and have to get on Airbnb and VRBO. So I'm going to lose out on income. Whereas, and that's the reason multifamily is so nice. You lose same in commercial, you lose one, but you just got 4 or 5 others who are helping you foot the bills. So
yeah, economies of scale, super helpful in that regard for sure, man. Yeah. Do you feel like, well, I guess let me back up. I would love to know more about what it looks like owning medical offices, especially from your perspective as a doc. Any difference to that compared to owning any other commercial property, or is it just still kind of set up double net lease or triple net lease? Nothing's really changed from that perspective.
The only change we had the medical office we own is it's a dentist that owns it, and he was renting out the one half. And the tenant on the other half was ready to leave. So, He was like, I'll take the other one. So he paid for all the renovation and everything on the inside. And now we've got, this huge dental. Now, if he leaves, we've got a huge dental office we've got to replace. But, he's a young guy, just moved to the area, was expanding his practice. So we know he's going to be there. He's not going to invest that kind of money and, leave it next year. So that's the one we do that's medical. And so we gave him as long as we so.
Sweet. Yeah, that's awesome. What's the typical lease term that folks could expect if they're looking to purchase, a small commercial building like this? What's a typical lease duration? You mentioned 10 years for the government leases or government contracts. Is that normal 10 years or is it typically less?
So the ones I think we had in the past were 7. We were able to negotiate these to 10. Generally, we're at 5-year leases with our tenants, which have been pretty consistent across the board for us. We've got a couple other government buildings that they renew every 5 years, but it's a Army, Air Force, Navy, I think Coast Guard. Anyway, it's a commercial building, so where all the recruits can come, and you just can go from door to door to door and talk to each sector of the military. That's a 5-year, but they've renewed it for the past, every 5 years they renewed it for, I think it was 15 years or something when we bought it. So we knew it's stable and not going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think the military's going anywhere. Hopefully we get some more recruitment for all the branches, but the Air Force as well. It's been a bit of a problem, but yeah, my time is wrapping up in the military here soon. So if anyone's listening, they want to take my spot, be an Air Force doc, reach out to me. But yeah.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh, thanks, man. It's been fun. That's awesome. Yeah, well, really cool. Is there any, if someone's just getting started, they're thinking, hey, I want to go after some of these commercial properties. What are some tips that you'd give them, or maybe what are some potential pitfalls to look out for that you guys have noticed as you've analyzed a bunch of deals and now, have 15 million of assets under management? What would you say to someone getting started?
For me, if you're in the medical field and you've got a busy practice, for us, it was having an operator who was somebody that we could trust to go out, look at the properties for us, vet the owners, look at the documents. Who had like I said, this gentleman been doing it for 10, I'd say about 5 or 6 years prior to us involved. Could you do it on your own? Of course you can. Absolutely, but then it's just making the phone calls, doing your own due diligence, getting your own inspectors over there, and yeah, some you're going to buy and you're going to go, oh, look what I bought, and have to redo it. Some you're going to win. We've had, several, we've had to replace the roofs. We've had to replace the asphalt. We've had to, luckily for us, the money that we haven't taken a lot of distribution. So we usually, the first 2 years of any money coming in, we keep that set aside in our accounts so that we don't have, these huge capital calls to, something come up. Luckily, no tornadoes have taken out those either in those areas. So it's just a matter of just grinding. The same thing Brian says in Action Academy. It's just building or not, just looking at, what people are offering. Does that make sense? Underwrite it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. What would you say is important to look for in an operator? What makes your operator so fantastic?
It's just in the details. He looks at deals that I'll send him and he's like, nope, sorry. And I'm like, why would you? Well, it's this, which is great, and I have an Alabama license. So when he gets sick, he calls me and I help him out. So
that's awesome.
It works out both ways. So no, it's, but just somebody you can talk to who's level-headed, who is not going to get emotional over it. And they, whether you agree with them or not, sometimes there's, decision made. He has to be the one, to, make that decision. And he's always been on time. He's always been honest with us. He's always been willing to put skin in the game. He's not asking, more than what his fair share is. And he's had the experience of it. And the deals he's brought us have just all make sense. Like he lays out the money, lays out his spreadsheet for us. He basically spoon feeds us, here it is in layman's terms, what the deal looks like, how the money's going to look, aside from no major catastrophes, and here's what we potentially will have once we pay down this amount of debt. And he lays it all out, which has been helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah. Sounds like you're an integrator, which is definitely important, and it's hard. I feel like you have the visionary and the integrator and all those sorts of things. And so I'm definitely the visionary, and we're working now on trying to figure out, okay, we need help with the operations side of things. We need help with the systems. And luckily, Charlie, one of my partners, he's an engineer, and he's a integrator, but doesn't want to be an integrator, if that makes sense, in terms of I would say he's an integrator in denial. He knows that's what he needs to do, but he is kind of doesn't want to sometimes. He's got those visionary tendencies. So he's definitely a blend there, but it is important to have someone on your team who can like just look at the facts, look at the numbers, not be emotional about it and just lay things out. I mean, Charlie, he's built out like this incredible residential assisted living calculator that's all these tabs and all these variables and all these things. And like legitimately, it took me like 20 minutes to figure out how to just add two cells together in Excel. So I'm like, I don't know how these people can do it. So it's definitely important to have someone on your team who can handle the operations for sure. That's awesome. Well, I want to pivot and ask Graves about Action Academy, or just kind of what your experience has been being surrounded by like-minded people who are crushing it in real estate and in entrepreneurship. What's that been like for you?
It's motivation, we meet our pod meets every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern time. And Webb Jones and I have been in there since the beginning. Since it started. We've had a lot of people, a lot of turnover, just come and go, whether they continue in action or change. He and I started with multifamily, but we're kind of pivoting, but he and I have been together from the beginning, and it's just fun. For me, it's brainstorming with people and hearing other ideas from people who are outside the medical field. Because with the medical field and the blinders that are put on, I just want to think outside the box differently. And it's been a wake-up call that there's more ways to do it than just the narrow-minded, focused way I was taught from med school through residency. They don't teach you much about the business side of medicine. They don't teach you much about the business side of life. It's focused on, the healthcare, which, you got to be, at the top of your game for that. I understand. But just to brainstorm with people every week and hear their views, hear what they're thinking about, hear the, the wins, the losses, right? Even the losses are important just to, figure out what it went wrong or why it did or why it fell through. It's just been neat to actually see that side of, society, so to speak.
Yeah, there's a bunch of studs in Action Academy, and it's such a great community. I think, regardless of what community people join or mastermind, I think it's just really important to get in the rooms with those people and realize that your environment, who you surround yourself with, is really going to change your life. And you said it perfectly, Graves, with like, hey, I just wanted to get around people who didn't have the medicine blinders on and see that, hey, there are other options and opportunities out here. And, hopefully folks who listen to this podcast understand that already, but it is really important to get around those people who maybe see things a little bit differently, invest differently, are willing to take a little bit more risk, and are really willing to hold each other accountable. I think that's a big thing with Action Academy I've seen, is that folks just not only take action, which is great because that's the name, but they also hold each other accountable and lift everyone up with them. And so it's been a really cool journey and experience to be part of that community. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Graves, what's next for you?
Well, we've got this piece where we've got these commercial properties, and slowly, the guy I was telling you about earlier, Hammond and I are looking at buying small business, a healthcare business, and start to be chief medical officer, directors of said medical business. So there's several of them that we're starting to look into. As you dig through Action Academy, it's not just real estate, but they also talk about, buying small businesses. And as the silver tsunami starts to retire, so, there's a lot of small businesses that are going to come for sale. And healthcare is what we know. That's just, we understand it. We can ask the questions that, pertain to the healthcare side of it. We have a good friend who's in finance, and he helps us with looking at it from the financial standpoint. And does this make sense from a numbers? And then we have a CEO of a different company, actually it's almost like placement for docs and helping them with different locums and stuff. Anyway, the CEO there helps with the operation. So anyway, we're starting to underwrite some small healthcare business for sale.
That's cool, man. Are there any particular businesses that get you excited in the healthcare space?
This one does, just because of the way it is tailored for chronic care, and the systems that they have in place is very interesting, and just gets you out of the grind of the emergency room, but you're still helping people. And so they've got a strong base of nurses and doctors and nurse practitioners. And we're kind of just looking at all different types of healthcare businesses. I really don't want to own a med spa. I have no intentions of injecting Botox and all these other foo-foo things. Concierge medicine, several times I've had people who are interested in that. So running emergency rooms. So our group has taken some contracts. And so I'm a regional director for a couple of small ERs in South Alabama, where they reside and where the company is. So yeah, it's just little things here and there just to keep the day busy and keep things.
Sounds good, man. That's exciting. Yeah. Yeah, you got a lot of things that you're working on, but you're crushing it and excited to see where things go. And it's so cool to see on the other side for you of now you're practicing medicine when you want to, how you want to. And that's because you put in the time, you put in the work, and you took action. If folks want to reach out to you, connect with you, learn more, how can they do that?
I'm on Instagram, Grace Fromang, or actually I have a Facebook group. If there's any physicians listening to this that are interested in fishing, there's a Facebook group called Real Docs, REELDOCX. That's our Facebook group. Got about 700 something members in there that are just sharing their wins on the water. That's the way I phrase it. Their wins on the water, hanging out with their family, and just release, relax, recharge. Release, relax, recharge. That's my mantra for our fishing group. So
nice.
Anywhere on Facebook or Instagram. Yeah.
I love that, man. I love fishing. What's a good fishing story you have for us to wrap things up?
Goes back to 2008. A buddy of mine his wife got him a charter out of Miami to go sword fishing, night charter to go sword fishing off the Atlantic coast. They're out of Miami. And we left around 6 p.m. and around 1 a.m. the captain's like, this is we're not having much luck, so to speak. He's like, we're going to wrap this up in about an hour or so. And we're like, that's fine. We're just bobbing in the waves at this point. It's 2 a.m. Our flat line goes, which is the top line, like the one that the closest to the surface of the water, and it just starts peeling line off. And for the next 3 hours, my 3 buddies and I were passing the rod around. And as we start to bring this fish up over the gunnel, it's a huge swordfish. I mean, huge. The bill is 10 feet long. It's just the biggest fish I've ever seen in my life come across the gunnel of a boat. And the captain's screaming. He's just crazy excited. Obviously, he's on the radio. I'm like, who would you radio at 2 a.m? Actually, this time it's like 4 or 5 a.m. Well, there was a tournament in Fort Lauderdale just north of us. And so we ran from Miami all the way to Fort Lauderdale so they could hoist this fish up on a crane. And it was a 420 pound swordfish.
Wow. That's amazing.
And we fought for 3 hours, and I've got the bill hanging in our kids' playroom. And I've got, pictures. We took home these huge chunks of meat with chainsaw this thing. It was crazy. And so one time, it was a one and done. I'll never do better than that.
Yeah, that's true, man. That is tough to beat. Did you guys win the tournament, I'm assuming?
We weren't even in the tournament. We would have won the tournament. We weren't even in it.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
This was a birthday charter.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I've got to do some good fishing when I was stationed down in Eglin Air Force Base over there in Dustin, and caught a lot of good red snapper and grouper and all kinds of stuff. And the fish was just so good. That was definitely one of the biggest perks of living down there in Destin and just eating all that fresh seafood all the time. And oh man, it's tough. It's tough to beat red snapper. Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. We'll have to do some fishing sometime.
Yeah, man. That cool. Sounds good, dude.
That's awesome, Graves. Well, awesome. Was there anything else you want to hit on before we wrap things up?
No, I just, to the people out there that are, grinding away, just, make sure you just spend time with the family, control your schedule. I mean, that's been my biggest thing. Control the schedule the way you want to do it, when you want to do it, with who you want to do it.
Love that, man. That's awesome. That's a perfect way to wrap things up. Well, with that, it's been Dr. Grace Fromang and Dr. Alex Schlow with another episode of the Physicians and Properties Podcast, signing off. Hey, real quick, if you're still listening to this, I'm assuming you got value from it. So I need your help specifically. My 2-year vision with this podcast is to help 100,000 physicians learn how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want. There are 2 main ways that a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and the other is word of mouth. If you can please leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as send this to 1 to 2 friends that you think would get value from it, we can reach the physicians that we want to reach. Thanks in advance, and talk to you on the next episode. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.